All right, welcome. So for these explainers, we always start with a source, an article, some data, a report. But what happens when the source is nothing at all? Let's dive in and see.
And here it is. This is our source for today. I'm not kidding. This single, completely blank page. That's literally it. No text, no images, no hidden messages. Just, well, emptiness.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? When you're staring at a blank canvas, where do you possibly start looking for the story? Well, it turns out there's one tiny breadcrumb, not in the file itself, but in what the file is called. So, our whole investigation is going to start right there, with the only piece of evidence we've got, the file name. It's time to play detective.
Okay, so here's what we're looking at. RWA, then some words in Cyrillic, and the .pdf at the end. It really just looks like a random jumble of languages, doesn't it? Let's break this thing down piece by piece.
So that first part, RWA, well, that's an acronym. And it points us to a really specific, kind of complex world, real-world assets. This is the language of high-tech finance and blockchain, where you take something physical, like a building or a bar of gold, and turn it into a digital token. It's all very abstract, very serious stuff.
Okay, now for the second part. That Cyrillic text, apelsok, is basically Russian shorthand. The full phrase is apelsinisak. And you know what that translates to? Orange juice. Yep, you heard me. Orange juice. And this is where things get weird. On one side, you have real-world assets, this dense, futuristic financial concept. And on the other side, orange juice, a breakfast drink. I mean, it's just an absurd combination. So what on earth connects high finance, a carton of juice, and a totally blank page?
This whole thing just brings us right back to the void itself, doesn't it? Let's just step back from the file name for a second and think about the canvas, the blankness. What does an absence of information even tell us?
You know, it kind of reminds me of this quote from Erasmus. The highest form of bliss is living with a certain degree of folly. I mean, trying to analyze absolutely nothing might seem a little foolish, but hey, sometimes that's where the most interesting ideas come from.
We've got to ask these questions, right? Could this whole file just be a mistake? Somebody uploaded the wrong thing? Or is the emptiness on purpose? Maybe it's a statement about simplicity or a challenge. Or maybe it's just an invitation for us, for you, to fill in the blank with your own ideas.
Okay, so we've got our clues, real-world asset, orange juice, and a whole lot of nothing. Let's try to put these pieces together and see if we can come up with some theories that actually make sense.
So for our first theory, what if this whole thing isn't literal at all? What if it's some kind of commentary, a metaphor for the wild and sometimes confusing world of modern finance?
Just think about it for a second. Maybe the orange juice is there to represent something simple and real, an actual real-world asset. And it's being slammed up against these super complex digital RWAs. And the punchline? The blank page? Maybe it's a symbol for an empty promise, a fancy financial product that, when you look inside, has no real value. Could this be a critique of a speculative bubble? Or maybe just a comment on how hard it is to see what's really going on in some of these markets? It's a pretty compelling idea.
But okay, what if we're overthinking the whole metaphor angle? What if this is less of a statement and more of a literal puzzle, a kind of deliberate, coded message waiting to be solved?
If you look at it that way, RWA orange juice could be anything. A password, a code name for a project, a key to unlock something else. The blank page might just be a locked door, a placeholder waiting for the real information. Or, hey, maybe it's even simpler. Maybe it's a test to see if we'd even bother to look at the file name. A little exercise in paying attention. Or maybe even a Zen-like invitation to just sit with the emptiness.
So, we've got two pretty solid theories. But hang on a second. What if the real answer isn't about finance or puzzles at all? What if the real subject of this whole thing is us?
And that right there is the crucial realization. The meaning of the blank page wasn't hiding in the file waiting to be found. No, it was created by us, right here in the last few minutes, just by searching for it.
I mean, just look at what we did here together. This slide lays it out perfectly. First, we were confronted with something we didn't understand, that blank page. So we started looking for patterns. We analyzed the file name. Then we formed hypotheses, our two theories. And from all that, we constructed a meaning. We built the very narrative of this explainer.
So, at the end of the day, this was never really about a PDF file, was it? It was a live demonstration of something fundamental about how our brains work.
We are meaning-making machines. We absolutely hate voids and chaos, and our minds will always, instinctively, try to create a story, find a pattern, or invent a reason, even when there's nothing there to begin with.
And that brings us full circle. Our explainer, our story, was just one attempt to fill that void. The source is still there, still empty, still open. So I'll turn the final question back to you. When you're faced with that blank page, what do you see?